All right, hi, welcome everybody. So today I'm starting the first in a series of European art museum salons. I'm planning maybe 2 a month, and the primary goal of these for me is to become familiar with the art at European museums, because I'm planning on doing a lot of research, which will involve at least one, probably 2 or maybe 3 trips to Europe. Depending on how folks like this or how popular it is, I might do more than one session of the same thing. I am planning a second Louvre session for a different time, and I'll be sprinkling these at different times because I know folks all over the world, or especially on different coasts, have different schedules and different times. This is a free event, but if you feel like donating, I will gladly accept a donation. And these are donations to help me finance my research, my trips to Europe, because all these museums, I want to go to them. Many of them I have been to, but a lot of them I have not. And perhaps all this research will go into something, a bigger project later on, which maybe I'll tease at some point. But I was asking before I started recording if anybody had been to the Louvre before. It looks like about maybe half of you have been to the Louvre, and there's a lot there. And I'll talk a little bit about the Louvre and how to approach it, just a few words, and how I've approached it. But the bulk of about 1 hour that we'll spend together will be with highlights that I've picked out. Let's see. You can see kind of a little bit of an outline of things. If you'd like to donate, I've got 2 options for you here. If you want for Venmo, you can take your phone right now and just hold it up to the screen, and you can donate. Or I've got a PayPal set up, which takes you to a donation option, and I'll bring those links back up later on if you like it. If you had a lot of fun and say, oh, wow, I want to donate a lot of money, that'll be just fine. So let's see. Oh, thanks, Molly. Hey, Wendy, welcome aboard. All right. Now, real quick, if you haven't downloaded the Touching the Art app, I want to highly recommend that. And I will be referring to it actually several times. I'll put the link to the app in the chat just in case you haven't had a chance to download it yet. I'm not going to go through everything here about the app. Several of you were here last time when Joseph went through some of the stuff with the app. And but I will be providing some links to artworks that you'll be surprised are on the app, but that will be kind of interesting for you. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you're interested and you haven't gotten the app yet, there's a link. Now, so the European salons are going to be a little bit different than the typical salons. A lot of these artworks I know, many of them I know pretty well. Some of them I've featured on tours or in classes, but a lot of them I haven't. So when I was going back through the Louvre, and the Louvre has a great website, and looking up all these artworks, it's like, oh yeah. Oh, that's there. I forgot about that. And I suddenly became overwhelmed, as some of you have become overwhelmed by just going to the Louvre because it's so massive. But I became overwhelmed by all the quality of stuff that I would want to give on a tour. I'm thinking, at first I was thinking I might have 2 different EuroSalons for Louvres. Now I'm thinking 4. 4 different EuroSalons for Louvre, and I'll let you know. Okay, and Gene, I see link needs sign in. I think you can. I think you're referring to the Touching the Art link, and I think you can sign in. You can create an account when you're there. All right. Now, so if you can't stay for the whole time, or you just want to come back, or you want to share the Louvre Salon with somebody else, I'm going to do another live one on Wednesday, January 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And the next art museum I'm going to do is at Tate Britain. on February 1st at 9 p.m., 6 p.m. Pacific. So that's something for your calendar. Now, let me talk a little bit about the Louvre. So my experience of the Louvre is I have been many times, but it's been several years. And whenever I go to the Louvre, the way I've handled it is I usually go at night because it's so crowded. And so when I go at night, what happens is there are fewer people, and I can have the galleries much more to myself. Also, I go for little chunks of time, like 90 minutes at a time, and that's it. I get one of those passes, kind of like you, Tom. You can get a week-long pass for museums in Paris and just go back over and over again to different spots. And there are so many different parts of the Louvre I go to. All right, I want to start off by sharing with you the artworks that are not going to be part of our tour today. And there's going to be a variety of reasons they won't be part of our tour. And I'll explain those. Some of you might be disappointed and say, Luke, what the heck am I doing here? If you're expecting us to spend time with the Mona Lisa, I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend much time with her. Get a good look at her. Yay, Mona Lisa. Hi, Lisa, by the way. Let's see. So there are a lot of famous artworks that I'm not going to spend time with because I don't find them particularly meaningful or dramatic or emotionally poignant. Now, that's not to say that you can't find the Mona Lisa emotionally poignant. I think you can, but I'm not going to feature her. Some other artworks I'm not going to feature are sculptures. I'm going to feature paintings exclusively for this salon and for most of the salons. I might come around if there's a popular uprising to do some Louvre sculptures, but there are a lot of wonderful sculptures, the Michelangelo, the Nike of Samothrace, and there is an amazing 19th century sculpture hall, or you can see one of them there. So I'm not going to do sculptures here. Also, this is a little bit of a heartbreaker, but I'm focusing on art museums or on the art that is on view at the museum. So as I was doing my research and picking out the artworks, one of the important things is I want to be sure it's there on view. Now, artworks change a lot, and there are like 2 or 3 artworks and stories in paint that when I put them in, I knew they were not on view, but they were just, I couldn't resist. But I'm trying not to include artworks that are not on view. So these are 2 paintings by Vermeer that I absolutely love, that would have been part of the Louvre tour. The one on the left is actually on view in Abu Dhabi. The Louvre has a satellite museum there. The one on the right is not on view. It might be in an exhibition somewhere else. All right. Now there's one more group of artworks that I'm not featuring here. And I'm going to show you 3 different ones of these. This one might look familiar. And this one might look familiar. These 2 are the bigger versions of ones that are in American museums that are in Stories in Paint. So this one, now there's some differences, and it's the same artist hand, but this painting is at the Detroit Institute of Arts here. And what I'll do is, if you're curious to find out more about this one, I am going to share with you the link to the artwork in the app. So for this one, you can go here. And on the app there, if you can, of course, listen to my reading, but also if you have comments to make, please do. So that's for this painting. This one is a larger version of one at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta. And I'm going to put the link for that one there in the chat. And then one more. This one you might recognize. This is the first new one I've added to the app. This afternoon, I posted my full reading of this one. So afterwards, if you enjoyed, if you want to keep the art train going, you can go back to the app and find this one and spend some time with it. And I'm going to put the link, specific link for that. One of the things with the app is I'm very curious to see how interested you are in participating in the comments and sharing those. And I want to encourage you, and feel free to just, put something in, see what happens. And you might get a reply from me. You might, and feel free to reply to others with their observations and so forth. All right. So those are the artworks that are not featured. So what is going to be featured? Are you ready? I've got 5 paintings for you. And the first thing is put a title in the chat. And after I show the 5, I'm going to ask you what intrigues you most. And then we're not going to pick that one. We're going to pick the 2 that I want to spend time with. But it'll be good. It'll be good feedback, good research. So yeah. And then afterwards, we'll come back, and maybe those that, if there was one that all of you really, really like, but did not make the cut, then it might come back. But let's begin. Here are the 5 paintings I would pick for a first tour of the Louvre. What's your title for this one? Hey, welcome, Carrie. We're just getting started here with the 5 artworks I'm picking out, and I'm inviting everybody to put their quick title in the chat. So what do we have? Tom, you have The Carpenter's Apprentice. Veronica, Working by Candlelight. Molly, you have Lighting Daddy's Work. All right, excellent. And Wendy, you have Helper by Candlelight. And Enric, you have Apprentice Learning. All right, here's the second one. What's your title for this one? And I bet some of you probably have seen this one before. Okay, keep typing. I'm going to start reading some of these. Tom, you have Warrior's Oath. Enric, Prepare to Duel. Molly, Confrontation. Wendy, Swords. Veronica, No Swords Allowed. Okay, excellent. And Carrie, you have The Sword Merchant. All right. Just real quick, if you've seen this one, just put yes. If you know this one, if you've seen this one before, put yes in the chat. Just I'm curious to see how popular it is, or if you want to put no. I'm curious to see how popular it is. And yeah, Harish, you put down, and I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly. It's preparing for battle. Oh, I should know because it's been a while, but it's been a while. Preparing for battle. And just a heads up, Harsh, you put in this is a direct message to me. If you want to share it with everybody, just send it to everybody.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
I changed it. Thanks.
Great. And then let's see. Molly, you've seen it, but always forgot the subject. And Lisa, you haven't seen it. Tom, you've seen it, but forgot it. Enric, haven't seen it. Carrie, no. And Wendy, yes, but it's been a while. And then Harsh, that was your title there. Preparing for battle. Okay, next one. How about this one? What's your title for this one? All right. Keep typing if you're still typing. Let me read some of these. Enric, you don't have to watch me pour. Molly, you have Babette at work. That I think it's a reference to Babette from Babette's Feast. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I haven't seen the movie, but I'm guessing you might recommend it. Let's see. Tom, you won't be ready for a while. When do you have what? As she reacts to you looking over. Yeah. Oh, Harsh, you have I like the way you look at me. And Veronica, you have preparing the meal. Okay, excellent. Here is number 4. And what's your title for this one? This is one that I'd forgotten was at the Louvre. It's one that I think I've shared before in some contexts that I really, really like. Tom, you have regret. Enric, you and Veronica are thinking kind of the same thing. You have resting after rigorous swim, and Veronica post-swim contemplation. Molly, repose. Harish, you have something similar as Tom's, dejected. And Carrie, misunderstood. All right, intriguing. And then one more. Here it is. What's your title for this one? Portraits are always a little tougher. And I don't usually have portraits often. All right, keep typing if you're still typing. Enric, you have come, sit, and gossip. So you're imagining that she's saying that. Tom, unknown portrait. Molly, tell me more. I'm curious, what's the tone of voice there, Molly? I could take that into different directions. Okay. Veronica, you have her saying, I'm intrigued. All right. Excellent. Wendy, you have content, and Harish, you have pretty woman. Oh, and Carrie, you have sit with me. Okay, great. Let's just go through the motions with a bit of a vote. I'm curious to see what you would pick out. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Which one most intrigues you? Okay. Oh, Veronica, number 5. Enric, number 1. Tom, number 4. Carrie, number 4. Lisa, number 5. Harish, number 2. Hey, Pooja, welcome. We're just going through the motions of pretending you get a choice in the 5 artworks that I've shared. Wendy, 1 or 3, since it's not real, you don't have to pick. Okay. Well, I'm going to make some of you happy, and I think I'm going to make most of you happy. All right. Let's see. Oh, and Enric, you're also 3. All right. Interesting. So you'll have to find out which artworks I've picked. And I've picked 2. So we're going to spend time with both of these. I'm going to have slides with close-ups to kind of direct. And then also we're going to do something a little bit different here too. Of course, I've got my guiding questions, but I'm also going to have a comparison artwork for each of the ones I've picked out. Hi, Joseph. Welcome. These are the 5 that I would select on a first tour of the Louvre. All right. Artwork number 1. And after I show it, I'm going to give you, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes on your own. Feel free to write out a reading, to just go through it mentally. But I'm going to show you different slides with different sections and always coming back to the full image. But I'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, you want me to clear out the numbers? Thank you. All right. So I'm going to mute myself. And the next 3 minutes are yours. Think about another 20 seconds or so. All right. I invite you to find a stopping point. If you'd like to share a reading, I want to give priority to those. I like hearing the whole thought process and your whole experience of the artwork in that very brief time. Feel free, if you want to read it out loud, whatever you have, feel free to raise your hand or just let me know, or unmute, or if you want to put it in the chat, you can do that as well. So I'll start off with anybody who's got any observations they'd like to share, and we'll build on that, and I'll ask some questions. Tom, would you like to start by reading yours out loud?
Sure thing. A man is working a piece of wood with carpenter's tools. It is dark, and a young girl, presumably the man's daughter or granddaughter, given his loving look, holds a candle to light his work. It appears that the wood he is working on is for some practical use, like a piece of furniture.
All right. Thank you, Tom. A couple of things that struck me about what you're saying is the look of the father or grandfather, the loving look that he's given, and also the child, the daughter you're describing as helping with the work by lighting that candle, by holding that candle there. And then that's something I'm curious about what exactly he's making. You're saying it's something that's probably like something practical, like a piece of furniture. And let's see, Tom, is there anything that makes you say that this is perhaps some piece of furniture or something that's just practical, simple work?
Well, I don't think he would be boring like a hole with an auger or something like that. And that, it seems like it'd be for fitting other parts together. So as opposed to like creating like a carving or something like that. I mean, he's just getting after it to, looks like, to put something together.
Yeah, so this is not like a little statuette to put on the pedestal or something. This is just making a hole so you can fit pieces of stuff together. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thanks, Wendy. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. A man is working with a tool to drill a hole in a block of wood. He has white hair and a bald head. A child is sitting close to him holding a candle to light the work. It is dark around them. The man's eyes are not directed at the work, but at the child. The child's lips are parted. Are they speaking? Is the child a boy or a girl? The clothing is simple. The hair is long. The candle looks unusual.
All right, thank you, Wendy. So a couple of details you pointed out that caught my attention were that the child is sitting down, that this is, they're there, they just didn't pass by, but that's kind of what Tom was saying, that this child's really helping out and is really stable. And then you're noticing a little bit of the expression of the child, the parted lips, maybe thinking there might be some speaking going on, some interaction. And then you're wondering if the child is a boy or a girl. Okay, and let's see what I have in the... And then Enric, some notes you made, I see. You're wondering what's behind the candle lighting up. Oh, Enric, you want to share? Yeah, go ahead. What do you mean by that?
Say, it just looks like that can't be a flame. It's like something is lighting behind the candle. I mean, it's very strange as a flame to be going straight up like that.
Okay, and then
behind her hand without it burning her or something. So it seems like there's something else to me, but I don't know.
Yeah,
have you ever seen a flame like that? Or?
That's an odd flame, huh?
Yeah. It's like there's almost something lighting up behind it or something. I don't know.
I'm wondering if this might be part of the candle too. That's my thought, but I can see how it looks like. Is that where the candle ends?
It's almost like a reflection of the candle, that there's no mirror or anything.
Yeah, and is this the large flame? That is an odd thing.
Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, and the fact that the child
strange.
has the hand right here would make sense if the flame were right beside the hand.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah.
oh, it's as if the flame is just spurted up like 6 inches. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the faces are really lit up, especially hers. Yeah.
Yeah, which really illuminates the face. And then you're also pointing out the boring in the wood, and that she seems to adore him, and he's looking back at her. Okay. So let's see some more thoughts. Can you imagine the conversation? What could they be saying to each other? What is the child saying to the old man? Hey, you're messing that up. Oh, and then Wendy, you're wondering if he's looking at the child, the girl, or the flame itself. Mm. And then Molly, you're wondering what exactly the child is looking at. Yeah, the eye lines are kind of interesting and odd. It doesn't look like there's a direct line of sight into the I'll call it grandfather's eyes. Enric, you're saying as a quote, how do you do that, Granddad? Oh, with a bit of wonder. I can see wonder in that part of mouth and his eyes. Yeah, I can kind of see that. All right. Let me ask you this personal question. When have you been in the position of the granddad? There's somebody has spent time, maybe younger, admiring a simple task that you do. Has that ever occurred? Maybe if you have children, you can think of that. Maybe if you've been a babysitter or have nieces and nephews. I know it doesn't happen often because when I was a kid, I would not really pay attention to what my dad was doing. My dad would say, hey, come take a look at me fixing the battery of the car. And I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to do that. So I was not this child when I was growing up. But maybe you can think of a moment when you've been in that position. And alternatively, maybe you can think of a moment when you have been like the child, where you've been very curious about something an adult was doing. Molly, you're saying neither are your children. All right. I think you might be surprised when I share the title. The title of this painting is Saint Joseph the Carpenter. And who is Saint Joseph? And who is the child? So what we have here is Jesus as a child, but Jesus is not out making the elders of the temple impressed with his knowledge. He's not out communing with God. He's not out performing some miracle, though maybe that flame might be a miracle. I don't know. He is here helping his dad. And looking up on admiringly at the very simple work his dad is doing. And as Tom was pointing out, this is not something fancy. This is something very simple. Molly, what do you say? Does Joe suspect that he's the miraculous babe? Maybe. But at this moment, Joseph, who has no magical powers, is being appreciated by this supernatural child. So this makes me think of maybe a little bit more of a different slant on the kind of situation here. Is there a moment that you can think of where, either from life or from literature or movies, where there is an individual who has these abilities, these interests that go beyond the more humble, the more rude, the more everyday tasks, but then stops to take an interest and show admiration and adoration for the simple skills, the simple tasks that somebody's engaged in? You know, it kind of makes me think, and this is a little bit of a funny thing. There's a TV series that it might still be out there, where the boss of a company has to go that's an undercover boss, has to go work with his employees and kind of discover what is it that they actually do. And Molly, you have a connection from Atlas Shrugged. Dagny admiring the brakeman whistling. Oh, when he's whistling. Okay. The tune. Yeah, I can see that. And then here's another one. Any Mandalorian fans out there? Yeah, Henrik. The little baby Yoda who's got all these force powers, but sometimes is like very curious and interested in this, like the ship that the Mandalorian has. So, oh, and Wendy Dadney admiring the sandwich. Yeah, that's right. When there's somebody making like a hamburger. Mm-hmm. It's Grogu. That's right. Okay, so this painting makes me think of one that you might be familiar with from the book, from the app. This one right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link to that one in the chat. And for those that see anything interesting here, what's similar about the situation that's going on, and maybe what's different? So I'll describe a little bit of what I'm seeing. On the right-hand side, you have a father and a daughter. And also, I'm going to spoil this a little bit if you haven't seen it before. And the dad is doing some kind of map work, and the daughters come over and taking a look at what he's doing, and is showing interest in what he's doing. And I'm reading some things in the chat here. Molly, you got child, adult, nighttime, the man at his work, similarity of dress, the dad's expression. Yeah, I like to point out that dad's expression. The eye lines are intersecting. Oh, Enric, what do you mean by that? Whose eye lines, and what does that say to you that they're intersecting?
Well, they're both sort of looking, their faces are toward each other, both instances, and their eye lines aren't the same, but they're both somewhat toward each other, but not directly.
Yeah. And you know what? I think, can you see my cursor right here? Are you able to see? Okay, so it looks like she's looking down at the work clearly while he's looking at her looking at the work.
Yeah.
Here, because eye lines are tough, I ask myself often, okay, what makes the most sense? He's definitely not looking down at the work, but looking at the person. And so it seems like I'm helping out my dad and admiring him for the kind of work that he's doing. Here in this painting, the geography lesson, she's in the process of understanding something that he's teaching her. And he's looking up at her, admiring her learning. So I'm looking at the chat here. Wendy, you have a similar intimacy. Molly, the informality of the scene. Yeah. And children both bring kind of lightness to the scene. And Wendy, different lighting, different classes. And Molly, she's in her white gown and he's with his lit candle. Yeah, it's all right. So my final takeaway from this one. There is a child who could be doing saving the world, who in fact goes on to save the world, does all these greater, grander things, who comes from a father that does the simplest kind of work you can think of. And in this moment, that child is admiring their dad in this humble, simple work that he's doing. And okay, well, I'm going to ask this question before I share. What detail do you especially like? Is there a detail that you especially like? Molly, you're pointing out the crooked finger down here holding the candle.
Mm.
And in contrast to the father's grip. Enric, yeah, there's a necklace right here. That's right. Veronica, you've got the fingers glowing next to the flame. Yeah. Right there. Mm-hmm. Molly's so light and the glow through the fingers. And Tom, the man's glance, the way he's looking up from under his brow. Yeah, I love that too. And I think for me, that look that he's got and the layers of wrinkles that you see, that might be my favorite detail. And Harsh, you've got the child's face is brighter, but the father's face is not as bright considering the light is not too far away. That's true. That's true. That might be some of the more symbolic or spiritual aspect coming. And Lisa, you really like the child's face of awe and interest with the lips parted. And Wendy, yeah, the closeness here. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I think I like his glance, how he's still turning and he's stopping for just a moment to look up at his son. All right, so that's my first selection. Do you like it? The painter's name is Georges de la Tour. I'll put the name in the chat. All right, thanks, Molly. Thanks, Enric. So, are you ready for artwork number 2? The title, Molly, is Saint Joseph the Carpenter. Saint Joseph the Carpenter. Though, of course, with a painting like this from like the 1600s, the title is not often one that is made by the artist. I think in French, the title is just Saint Joseph and the little Jesus. If you go to Louvre, that's what you would see on the plaque. In English, it's Saint Joseph the Carpenter. So it depends. All right. Painting number 2, the one I want to spend time with, is one of the more challenging genres to spend time with, and that's portraits. So I want to give you, let's say, 90 seconds with her. Take a few moments. Feel free to write out any details. And you know what? I'm going to experiment a little bit here. While you are going through your own reading, feel free to ignore me or to mute me. I'm going to read out loud some guiding questions for her, just in case that's helpful for you. What's her personality like? What details do you see that suggest that personality? What might she say if she were to speak to you? Do you see any movement, recent or that's about to happen? Can you imagine what the person in front of her might have said? What differences do you see in their personality or their character, their body language? Take about another 20 seconds. All right. I invite you to find a stopping point. If you want to share anything in the chat, please feel free to. And if you want to read what you have out loud, I'll take those first. If anybody wants to jump in.
I'll give it a go.
Go for it, Tom.
A young woman with almost impossibly wide-set eyes sits on a cushioned bench before a window. She appears to be well off given her jewelry and fine garments and the curtain. And she looks on with slightly hunched, rounded shoulders. And that's kind of all I got because I don't know what to make of this.
Okay, good.
I'm confused.
Well, what question does your confusion take? How does your confusion take form in a question?
I've never seen. It almost looks like one of the gray aliens. And I'm really having a hard time getting past that. It's like distracting to where I can't really get my head around it. So
you know what?
I keep going back to that.
I never really noticed how wide the bridge of her nose is, but now I am noticing that. Yeah. Okay, but you're also looking at, what kind of person she is. Maybe she's affluent in her class. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Tom. Molly, do you want to read yours out loud?
Sure. Let's see. A young woman sitting on a red velvet cushion, wearing a black revealing gauzy dress and a gray scarf or belt, is leaning toward us with interest. Her eyes are soft, her lips parted, her head at a very slight tilt as if listening. Her ring shows she's not yet married. It's on the wrong finger for being married. Her gold bracelet suggests wealth, as do the silk curtains and the braids in her hair. She has carefully arranged hair with wisps of curls framing her base. She has a noble nose and fair skin, is probably of the wealthy French aristocratic class, but I'm thinking post-revolution based on the later style of her dress, maybe like a 19th century style. And she was reminding me of that Bonaparte's relatives, not the daughters, but like a cousin. There's another painting at the Getty that you have in Stories in Paint, the American edition. The style of the painting looks like that artist's work, and also the style of her dress reminds me of that painting. That's what I got. Oh, and I also noticed in the background there's some maybe Italian or French countryside with a river. So she's at a window by probably the outskirts of a major city, maybe Paris or Rome.
All right. Okay, so lots of interesting details. I like hearing these words that I don't often use to describe like the clothing and the hair. And so that's intriguing. And let's see, Carrie, did you want to read out loud what you have?
Yeah, it's not quite as extensive as Molly's. Molly did a good job. A young woman sits on a velvet window seat. She does not wear a wedding ring and seems to be inviting someone to join her for conversation. Her left hand pats the cushion as she leans forward with an inviting smile. Her dress looks comfortable and flowing.
Okay. Yeah, it is a window seat. And I like that you're pointing out maybe there's some motion going on here where she's kind of patting the cushion, inviting you along with her glance. All right. And Enric, you put down she's quite intrigued by what her girlfriend tells her. So you're imagining that she's in front of a girlfriend. Okay. She'll beckon her to sit beside her so they can passionately discuss the details. All right. So I'm curious if anybody wants to put down any quotes as to what you think she could be saying at this moment. Imagine her speaking. What could she be saying at this moment? If you were to go up to her and she were to speak, what would she say? And then Molly, in the meantime, you got her fingers are also spread out, almost like she's thinking of some sequence of events. Oh, okay. And maybe fluttering, like kind of that. Okay. All right. And one quote you have, Molly, is now, tell me everything. How is everyone at home? Enric, you have come. Tell me more. All right. Those are some good quotes. What more for quotes? Oh, Tom, how was your journey? And Veronica, you feel like she's asking something or inviting a comment. So Veronica, imagine that there is a speech bubble there, or if she were to speak. What exactly are the words that you imagine that she would say? And then Lisa, you have to a friend. I have a new love interest. Okay. Okay. Joseph. There's a storm brewing outside and soon in here. Okay, Joseph, now you got to answer what kind of storm are we talking about here? And then Wendy, you have, hello, welcome. I'm putting in the tone of voice, so I don't know, Wendy, what kind of tone you're imagining. Feel free to jump in and do some play acting if you want. And let's see. Veronica, I imagine she was looking at something, maybe a painting, and then someone came up beside her and made a comment about it, and she's asking for them to expand. So something like, oh, would you say more about that painting? Joseph, absolutely, you'll pass. Carrie, it's good to see you. Let's catch up. Wait till I tell you ... Now you got me intrigued and wondering what the ... has. So I'm going to throw out a couple of adjectives to describe her. Inviting, alluring, intrigued, maybe even flirtatious. And then when you're looking at a portrait, there are two things to really immerse yourself in the portrait to get to that. What are the particular details that suggest that? And then you can see those details more clearly if you contrast them. So I imagine her as kind of being a little flirtatious or intrigued by me. And I'm going to point out the details that I see that make me think that. And many of the details have been pointed out already. That hand that's almost inviting you to join. Her shoulders leaning forward. Look at, in contrast to Mona Lisa's shoulders kind of drawn back, and Mona Lisa's hands pulled in. She's opening herself up to you. She's leaning her shoulders forward a little bit, and she's tilting her head forward in a more direct gaze. Her face is directly staring at you. Mona Lisa sitting back, chin lifted, and looking out at you slightly out of the corner of her eye. And then look at those eyelids that are half covering the top of the pupils, very sensually. And then the lips parted. You can see her teeth there. So when I see her, I see somebody who is beckoning me to flirt with me. There is something intriguing that's going on, that she is thinking is going on, and she wants to be a part of whatever it is you're bringing to the table. Okay. So, question, does she make you think of anybody, or does this moment make you think of anybody from literature or movies? I'll throw one out there. Those of you who are familiar with Gone with the Wind, maybe Scarlett O'Hara when she's looking at Ashley. I might not be as versed in love stories, or maybe there's some others out there that are like this, or maybe this is a love story written by a man rather than by a woman. I'm curious. Any other connections that come to mind? Tom, you say Ingrid Bergman and everything. When in Casablanca, when she's speaking to Rick and she's saying, Rick, tell me what to do. I'll do anything. Yeah. That's a great one. Jane and Pride and Prejudice. All right, here's one more question for this one. And keep thinking if you have any connections. But to personalize it, let me ask it this way. Who in your life would you want to have look at you like this? And feel free not to answer. But maybe that's one way to think about this. Who in your life would you want to have them look at you like this? And then Molly, you've got the Jane wouldn't be quite as leaning towards you, and Lisa, you're thinking of Pride and Prejudice. And Molly, you would want to see this from a friend who wants to chat. Yeah. One final detail. What detail do you especially like about this image? Those eyes, they're still in, how wide apart they are. What about the eyes? Because Lisa, the lean in. Veronica, the body language is twisting towards you. Yeah, this one would be a good one to take the pose of to see how it feels. Next time you're talking to somebody, take this pose if you want to and see what the response is. So, what particular detail do you especially like? I think for me, there's so many, but that diaphanous fabric is also something else that's really inviting. And the parted lips, that's another particular detail. Wendy, you have the soft, friendly smile and the gold bracelet. Oh, the gold bracelet. Yeah. Yeah, there's not much. She doesn't have any jewelry on her neck. It's just that bracelet. All right. Any final thoughts or questions about this one? Oh, I should put in her name. Her name is Laure de Bonneuil. And I'm putting it in the chat. And the artist is Francois Girard. And Molly, he lived at the same time as Jacques Louis David, the one you were comparing to the two sisters. I believe she's a countess, and I think she's married. The ring thing I think was different at some point, where the left hand had the or the right hand had the married rings. I think I remember reading that, but I need to. That's something I need to learn more about. Yes, so a countess who is like this, she is not, you know what a good contrast would be? Somebody who's more reserved, but Mona Lisa is a pretty good contrast to her. All right, last question I have for you. Of these three, and I'll put numbers, 1, 2, 3, are you most disappointed didn't make the cut? Tom, number 1, Wendy, number 3, Lisa, number 2, Molly, 3, because it's new to you, Veronica, number 2, Carrie, number 2, Pooja and Enric, number 3. All right. Interesting. Okay, so, and Harish, you've got number 1. Yeah, all right, spreading the love a little bit. I want to invite you to do a couple things. One, if you enjoyed our little tour and want to help support the research as I go forward, there's a Venmo link or a PayPal link you can use there, just by holding up your phone if you want to do that. Or if there's some other way you feel like donating, please send me a message and I'll be glad to. And if you're just kind of on your phone while you're in your car and you're just just hovering, please feel free to like not donate. I just want to give you the option of supporting if you found a lot of value in this, but I also want to encourage you to just pop in anytime you like and not feel like you're having to pay admission for anything. And I'm going to put some of the links of the other artworks that are there, and I want to invite you to put in any comments. So this one is for the most recent painting that I put up. The last one on the bottom right. And if there's another one that you want a link of to go directly to, let me know in the chat and I'll post that. Also post those on the Facebook page. So last thing, roger that, Molly. Thank you. I'll see you next one. Oh yeah, here. I'm going to go to this photo. I don't know if anybody wants to see this, but here's one. Meeting her in person was wonderful. All right, everybody. Any final thoughts or questions? My pleasure, Harsh. Thanks, Wendy. You bet, Veronica. Great, Enrique. I will have another Louvre session another time, but the next new one will be the Tate Britain. Bye, Lisa. Bye, Tom. Bye, Carrie. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.